Welcome everybody in Assignments Gone with Silva Rerum. Today we will speak about uprising in Warsaw in the August and September of the 1944. Especially for everybody who are not really know exactly what this uprising was, I want to make it a little bit closer, and I will use to that task an excellent game of Wojciech Zalewski. Wojciech Zalewski produced such games as Warsaw 1944, as you see on the picture, and it shows not only the uprising in the Warsaw in Warszawa city, but also all operation around the city. It shows real units, historical events, historical fightings were taken in the August, actually end of July and all August 1944. So this is an excellent opportunity. The map and the tokens looks really great. They have very high standards, very aesthetical. Game is absolutely fantastic to see and understand the reality of the battle and see how it was going. What uprising in Warsaw, for many people on the west, all over the world, just known as something dramatic, and it really was. One of the most important thing is to discuss, especially Polish people discuss after many years now. It was really necessary. In many opinions, also as mine opinion, it was really unnecessary fighting, because about from 100 to 200,000 civil people died, and almost all city was completely ruined. Most than 80, about 90% will go into the ruin. So just take a look with these tokens. It's very visible, right? We have Warszawa here. These yellow units represent the partisans that were fighting in the city. These are Germans, exactly police corps of von den Bach Zalewski. In military standards, actually, it wasn't corps. There was several, let's say, brigades and regiments with lower standards. If you think about the typical line unit, it wasn't typical frontline experience units. They are mostly were organized with policemen or even criminals, like Brigade Dirlewanger of Oskar Dirlewanger were created from the criminals taken from the prisons. Rapers, killers, thieves, such thing. And other units from Ukrainians, Russians, Cossacks. Such units actually weren't capable to use them on the first front line to fight with experienced veterans as Soviets on this stage of the war. So they used them against the partisans, and that was a real drama and horrific battle to fight with the people who were degenerated morally, and they make very, very cruel, absolutely nasty things to the civils, especially women in the Warszawa. So as you see, the uprising is going over here. It's the 1st of August 1944. The uprising actually started, and we see the situation how it looks like outside the Warsaw. The partisans were thinking that Soviet army, the Red Army, if they were here, that the uprising started in the Warsaw, they will try to help them, and they're just trying to go from the east. Because on this map everything was this upside, it's Eastern Europe, right? Soviets are going, and this is the West, right? But we show it from that side. I will show in the next movie how it looks exactly, because actually the Soviets are going from southeast, this way. If you see the front line here, that's how the front line going, right? Yellow units means home army, means Armia Krajowa, that they were biggest organization fighting against Germans on the territory of Poland for all occupation time. And yellow units and the red units represent red army, red tokens, and of course Germans, let's say this is a blue, actually field grey color. We have also elite unit, last Hermann Göring division, very nice looking in aesthetical way. Every token represents regiment or brigade. Here we'll see the red number represent the real strength of the unit, and the blue number on the blue square represent capability to move, right? 4 points. And it depends, of course, from the type of the terrain, if it's a way, if it's a river or swamp or wood. It represents on special table when you can compare and just recognize how the unit can move. It depends from the type of the unit. Is mechanized or just infantry or cavalry or tanks. It depends from capabilities of the units. You have also headquarters as here, right? And what's the most important thing I want to say? On the 1st of the August, actually Soviets, even if they really want, but really they doesn't want to support Poles, they can't go through the front line, as you see, because Germans are quite strong in this area. Over here you have black tokens, that means SS units, 5th and 3rd Panzer Divisions, Totenkopf and Viking, the elite and the most dangerous units. And situation for Russians in that sector, it's very, very dangerous, because Russian units go very, very deep into the front line, and actually they are in danger of encircle. They can be encircled anytime, especially by the SS units. But even over here we see the elements of the 19th Armored Division. It can go like this and encircle, for example, this 109th Brigade of Russian tanks. These units here, 5th and 3rd Division, can easily break the line of the 112, 132 Infantry Division. Very important thing to say. Every X represent brigade, 3 lines represent regiment, 2 lines represent battalion, and 2 X's represent a division. What is important and to say how the organization looks like, Soviets have many infantry divisions, and every division is actually represented by 1 token. In German standards you have 3 tokens, because German divisions were still a little bit more stronger, so they represent in 3 regiments. That's important thing to recognize. There are 2 different qualities. But in that time, we must say, most of the German divisions were really exploited and overused, and they have about even 6,000 people, sometimes 10,000, very rare 11,000. Soviet units were exactly actual, Soviet divisions were looks exactly the same in many occasions. So both sides lose many soldiers. But if you think about all war machinery, of course, Soviets have about, if we think about Western standards, plus minus over 500 divisions, where Germans have on the Eastern fronts about 180 till 220, depends from the moment, from the month. The weakest month was in December 1944, when they used most of the units on the west, especially in Ardennes. They mobilized some corps there, the armies. And that was a moment when Eastern Front were very weak, but never mind. Now we have August, 1st of August, and this was the actually worst moment for the Poles to start the uprising. Let's have a look. The corps, the police corps of von den Bach-Zelewski is weak, right? But it doesn't mean they can fight only with this, because on the east we have Hermann Göring division. Of course, not all the units can support against the Warsaw, but it's very rare. It's very near to the Warsaw. We have 19 Panzer division, yeah. We have other units. We have even Hungarians here. This is a funny story, because there was even this stock here. Let's have a look. a second corps of General Kiss, right, Kiss. There was small probability even that the Hungarians will go forward and even help the Poles, right? We have a very long history with Hungarians, and Hungarians will never fight against Poles actually, and the situation can look really unpredictable even for Germans. Just imagine if the Hungarians will go a couple of kilometers and just fight with the Poles. Of course, nothing such happened never, but the probability was quite big in that time. So that's how it looked the 2nd and the 1st of August. It was impossible that the Soviets that day, or next day, on 3, even 4 days after, can run into the Warsaw, right? Even, let's have a look closely. This unit here, this is 16 armored corps. Theoretically, if you will go through this river, through the wood, and try to close, he will be completely encircled here, right? So it doesn't make even any sense to get forward. This unit can do it, as you see, this one. Home army is very near to the Soviets, but that was actually very risky. All situation was very risky. I'm saying that to the people who have no idea what was the Red Army, and they think that the Red Army was always a great ally to the Westerns and the Poles. They weren't. They were murderers, and the Red Army was an army not of liberation, not of freedom, but a new slavery in the communist type, right? And these soldiers that were fighting in the Red Army, they were not bringing freedom, but just slavery under the communist Soviet rulers. They were full on NKVD units, right? And they were controlled. So Home Army actually was a potential enemy to the Red Army, right? Theoretically, they were an allies, but practically, as we see in the history, especially near the city of Vilna, where the Home Army, such units, yellow units, were fighting with the Red Army against Germans in Vilna, in city of Vilna. Then after the battle, they just vanished, because the NKVD take care for them. Probably they killed them. So the problem was for the Red Army that actually that wasn't a good idea for the Stalin to help the Home Army to establish a free government in the Warsaw. It was much better for them. Even they will lose in the uprising, even they will be killed by the Germans, and all city will be destroyed even, then the Red Army will go through and just liberate and help the Poles. Of course, some of the we must always remember that some of the officers, soldiers have different view in the heart, in the mind about this, and they were ready to help the Poles to fight against the Germans. Just like hate Germans, right? But if you think about the ideology, about the structure and the way how the Red Army was established and who was the real ruler, it looks really different. Communist doesn't accept any kind of non-communist. We must always remember that. Soviets fight actually against all world. If they had any allies that were capitalists, that were social democratic or fascist or even Nazis, because Nazis, the Germans, the Hitler was an ally of Stalin over 2 years, that was taken only from political reasons, right? Only political reasons. Stalin never had any allies before the 1939, before August 1939, and he make pacts only for first thing to survive, as with his system, or to achieve a goal. And after, when he achieved a goal or survive, like all Soviet Union survived, when he was so close even to kill Stalin and lose the war with the Germans in 1941, then he just changed his view and changed everything, how he wanted to resolve the problems. So even was ready to fight with the former Allies, exactly like it was in the June 1941 when the Germans were still allies with the Soviets and attacked them. It's very probable that the Soviets want to do it before Germans, but it was just too late. There are many historical events that show that. So, just on the map, this is the first chapter in English language. I wish to say regards to my English friends, American and many others who speak in English language, because my channel is in Polish, but I'm trying also to open for the world, for the other people. So it's very nice, I'm very happy I can do it. If you have some questions, just left some info under the movie, or send emails, how do you want to see it, or any details, or any other things. I will show you more details in next movie about Uprising in Warsaw. You have watched SG Silva Rerum, Simons Gornovich Silva Rerum, which means wood of things. It was nice to speak to you, and see you in the next movie. See you, goodbye guys.